So here's the thing about running the most secure exotic creature facility in three-star systems. You get real comfortable with your safety protocols. You start believing your own press releases. You think, hey, we've got force fields rated for supernova-level impacts, security drones that could take down a small army, and containment procedures written by the 14 smartest beings in the galaxy. And then one Tuesday afternoon, all of that confidence gets flushed out the nearest airlock. Commander Krelnock was enjoying his afternoon caf, a nice imported blend from Centauri Prime. Very expensive, very calming, when the alarm started screaming. Not the polite ding-ding of a minor systems hiccup. No, this was the full-on, everyone is probably going to die klaxon that made your inner ear fluids boil. All four of his arms spasmed, sending the caf mug spinning across his office. Being a Tytherian meant he had excellent multitasking capabilities, which right now translated into panicking in 4 different ways simultaneously. Status report. He shrieked into his comm, his mandibles clicking so fast they sounded like malfunctioning machinery. Security Chief Togg's gravelly voice crackled back, and he sounded like someone who just watched his pension plan evaporate. Commander, we have a Crimson-level breach. It's the Vorthax. Krelnock felt his primary heart stop. Then his secondary heart stopped, just to be thorough. Please tell me you're joking. Please tell me this is some kind of horrible team-building exercise. Negative, sir. Containment cell 7 Alpha is completely empty. Force field's down. Structural integrity of the outer wall is not great. There's a hole. How big of a hole? Big enough for a very motivated Vorthax, sir. For those of you keeping score at home, a Vorthax is what happens when evolution gets really drunk and decides to create a nightmare. Native to Kragath 9, a death world so unpleasant that its own tourism board gave up and just started calling it, that place you'll definitely die. The Vorthax sits comfortably at the top of Kragath 9's food chain, which is impressive because everything else on that planet is also trying to kill you. Picture a creature about the size of an Earth rhinoceros, but designed by someone who thinks rhinoceroses are way too cuddly. 6 legs, each ending in claws that can shred through titanium alloy like it's tissue paper, a head that's mostly jaws, acid saliva that can eat through damn near anything, armored hide that laughs at plasma rifles, and a temperament that makes a pissed-off hornet seem downright friendly. They hunted them to near extinction on Kragath 9. Not because they wanted to, but because even a death world has its limits. Galactic Zoological Station Omega-7 had exactly 1 Vorthax, past tense had. Krelnock burst out of his office, his forearms flailing in what definitely wasn't panic, but might have looked like it to untrained observers. Lock down all sections. Deploy. Security drones. And someone find out where that thing is going. Togg was waiting in the corridor, all 7 feet of scaled reptilian muscle holding a plasma rifle that suddenly looked way too small. Sir, there's one more thing. Unless you're about to tell me you've already recaptured it, I don't want to hear it. We had visitors today, touring group, from Earth. Krelnock's antennae went completely rigid. Earth? The humans? Yes, sir, a family, 2 adults, and a... Togg checked his datapad, and his scales actually went a shade paler. And a 3-year-old juvenile. The commander made a sound that doesn't translate well into human language, but roughly means the universe is personally targeting me for maximum suffering. Humans, the galaxy's newest members, the weird little primates from that surprisingly horrible death world who'd somehow built fusion reactors before figuring out reasonable healthcare systems. Everyone was still trying to figure them out. Friendly enough, definitely weird, and their children were apparently both indestructible and magnetically attracted to danger. And now one of those human children was loose in the same station as a Vorthax. Find that family, Krelnock whispered, his voice carrying the kind of dread usually reserved for funeral dirges. Find them right now, because if that creature gets anywhere near that human child, we're not just looking at a lawsuit. We're looking at an interstellar incident. We're looking at Earth declaring war. We're looking at me spending the rest of my very long life in a very small cell, explaining to very angry diplomats why I let their baby become a snack. Togg was already moving barking orders into his comm. mobilizing every available security officer. Behind them, somewhere in the station's labyrinthine corridors, something roared. It was the kind of sound that evolution specifically designed to make your survival instincts scream, run away and never stop running. Krelnok's 4 hands clenched into fists. This was going to be a really, really bad day. Security Team Delta moved through the station's corridors like they were breaching a hostile warship. Full combat armor, plasma rifles charged and ready, tactical formation that would make a military instructor weep with pride. They looked extremely professional and prepared. They were also absolutely terrified. Thermal scanners aren't picking up anything, reported Officer Krill, a Zentari whose compound eyes were currently dilated to maximum paranoia levels. But the Vorthax has adaptive thermoregulation, so that doesn't mean much. Fantastic, muttered Tog, who was leading the sweep personally because apparently today was a day for bad decisions. Keep moving, check every corridor, every maintenance shaft, his comm chirked too. It was Krelnok, and he sounded like someone having a very polite, nervous breakdown. Security Chief, tell me you found the human family. Negative, Commander? We're still searching. Station's a big place. Well, search faster. Do you have any idea what humans are like about their offspring? They're insanely protective. They form pair bonds just to raise them. They sacrifice their own survival for them. They've been known to fight creatures 10 times their size to protect their young. And we've lost one of their babies in a facility with an escaped apex predator. Tog wanted to point out that technically they hadn't lost the child, they just didn't currently know where the child was, but that seemed like splitting hairs. Sir, we're doing everything we— Hold on. One of his team members, a 4-armed Klaxian named Ven, had stopped dead in the corridor. Commander, we've got claw marks, fresh ones. The entire team froze. Tog moved forward, his rifle tracking the shadows. Sure enough, deep gouges ran along the wall plating. The metal peeled back like it was made of cardboard. Some of the edges were still smoking slightly, residual acid eating away at the alloy. Okay, Tog said quietly. So it came through here. Spread out. Watch your corners. Remember your training. Aim for the joints and— Sir? Ven again, and her voice had gone up an octave. You need to see this. Next to the claw marks, barely visible on the polished station floor, were tiny footprints. Human-sized, child-sized. They were heading in the same direction as the Vorthax tracks. The security team exchanged looks that needed no translation. Pure, distilled dread. Commander, Tog said into his comm, very carefully keeping his voice level. We have a situation development. The human juveniles' tracks are following the Vorthax path. They're going the same direction. There was a long silence on the other end. Then, following? You mean the child is tracking it? The prints are definitely moving the same way, sir, and they're recent, maybe 5 minutes old. More silence. Tog could practically hear Krelnok's sanity cracking through the comm channel. Here's the thing about humans that the rest of the galaxy was still getting used to. They came from Earth. Earth, classified as a Category 4 hazardous death world, which was a polite way of saying everything there is trying to kill you, and some of it is very good at it. Humans evolved as persistence predators. They literally chased their prey until it died of exhaustion. Their entire biological strategy was just keep going until the other guy gives up. They had stamina that bordered on supernatural. They healed from injuries that would kill most species. They could survive in environments that ranged from frozen wastelands to scorching deserts. They'd domesticated wolves, actual apex predators, and turned them into pets they dressed in little sweaters. And somehow these terrifying survival machines had a fatal flaw. They thought everything was cute. They wanted to pet things. They formed emotional attachments to literally anything, including creatures that could absolutely kill them. There were documented cases of humans trying to befriend Vraxian death beetles, which were called death beetles for extremely good reasons. Human children apparently had this tendency amplified to insane levels. They had no sense of danger whatsoever, none. Their survival instincts were just completely offline. Team Delta, proceed with extreme caution, Krelnok's voice crackled. If you encounter the Vorthax with the human child, do not, I repeat, do not engage unless absolutely necessary. The last thing we need is to accidentally shoot a human juvenile while trying to save it from being eaten. Understood, sir. They moved forward, following the parallel tracks. More claw marks appeared, along with scorch marks where the acid saliva had dripped. A cargo container had been completely torn apart, its contents scattered across the corridor. A security drone lay in pieces, sparking pathetically, and right in the middle of the carnage, pristine and undisturbed, was a small human shoe, just one, the left one. Size Toddler. Officer Krill picked it up with trembling hands. It had cartoon animals on it, something called a dinosaur, which apparently were extinct Earth predators that humans found adorable. "Oh, we're so screwed," Krill whispered. Tog was about to respond when they heard it. From somewhere deeper in the station, echoing through the corridors, a child's laughter, high-pitched, delighted, absolutely fearless laughter, and underneath it, barely audible, a sound that shouldn't exist, a sound that made no evolutionary sense whatsoever. The Vorthax was purring. "Double time!" Tog barked, and the security team broke into a run, weapons ready, hearts pounding, minds trying desperately to process what they might be about to find. Krelnik's voice came through one more time, thin and desperate. "Please tell me that child is okay. Please tell me I'm not about to start an interstellar war because a Vorthax ate someone's baby." Tog rounded the corner into the recreation habitat dome, and his brain simply refused to accept what his eyes were showing him. "Commander," he said slowly, you're going to want to come down here right now and maybe bring a camera because nobody's going to believe this." The recreation habitat was designed to make captive creatures feel at home. Artificial sunlight streamed through the dome ceiling. Genetically modified trees created a reasonable facsimile of a forest. A small stream burbled peacefully through manufactured rocks. It was all very serene and natural and calming. And right in the middle of this carefully crafted ecosystem, the galaxy's most dangerous apex predator was giving a 3-year-old human a pony ride. Security Team Delta stood frozen in the doorway, weapons raised, safeties off, every combat instinct screaming at them to do something, but their brains had basically blue screen trying to process the scene. The Vorthax, all 6 legs, all those nightmare claws, that mouthful of teeth that could crack starship hulls, was gently trotting in a circle. Its movements were careful, almost delicate. Its massive head was lowered in what could only be described as contentment, and sitting on its back, one shoe on and one shoe off, was a tiny human girl with pigtails and a dress covered in flowers. She was giggling, full body, delighted, pure joy, giggling. "Faster, Mr. Chompers, faster!" The Vorthax made a sound that shouldn't come from a creature of pure murder, a deep, rumbling purr that vibrated through the habitat. It picked up its pace slightly, still being incredibly gentle, like it understood exactly how fragile its passenger was. The child had somehow woven together native habitat plants into a crown of flowers and placed it on the Vorthax's head, right between its sensory horns. The apex predator of Kragath 9, the thing that had hunted its own species to near extinction, was wearing a flower crown, and it looked happy about it. Officer Krill's rifle was shaking. What's the protocol for this?" "There is no protocol for this," Tog whispered. "There can't be a protocol for this because this shouldn't be possible." One of the other team members, a young Palaxian named Torque, made a small whimpering sound. Should we shoot it? Shoot it? Are you insane? The child is on it. Maybe we could stun it? And what? Have it fall on the human? That thing weighs 4 tons. The Vorthax noticed them. Its massive head swung around, sensory horns focusing on the armed security team. Its eyes, 6 of them, each the size of a human fist, locked onto the plasma rifles aimed in its direction. Every member of Security Team Delta tensed. This was it. This was when it dropped the weird friendly act and went back to being a killing machine. This was when they'd have to try to shoot it without hitting the child, which was basically impossible, and then they'd all die, and Krelnak would have to explain to Earth's military why their citizens got murdered at a zoo. The Vorthax looked at them for a long moment. Then it made the purring sound again, turned its head back around, and continued its gentle trot with its tiny human passenger. "Okay," said Krill slowly. "Okay, I'm just going to say it. I think I'm having a stroke. Anyone else having a stroke? Because this feels like a stroke." Togg's calm exploded with Krelnak's voice. "Report, what's happening? Is the child alive?" "Sir, the child is, she's fine. She's more than fine. She's riding it." "She's what?" "Riding it, sir, like a pony. The Vorthax is just, it's letting her. It seems to be enjoying it, actually." There was a long pause. Then, "Tog, have you been drinking on duty?" "I wish, sir. I really, really wish." "I'm coming down there." The comm clicked off. The security team continued their awkward standoff with the universe's most wholesome nightmare. The little girl noticed them for the first time and waved cheerfully. "Hi, this is Mr. Chompers. He's my new friend." Torque lowered his rifle slightly. "Ma'am, that's a very dangerous animal. You should probably not be on it." The child looked offended. "He's not dangerous. He's nice. He let me pet him and everything." "She petted it," Krill muttered. "She walked up to a Vorthax and petted it. I'm going to need therapy after this, extensive therapy." The Vorthax made a huffing sound that might have been agreement. Its tail, which normally lashed like a weaponized whip during hunts, was doing a gentle swaying motion, almost wagging. Footsteps echoed from the corridor. Krelnak burst into the habitat, all four arms gesticulating wildly, mandibles clicking in distress. He skidded to a halt when he saw the scene. His antennae drooped. His mandibles stopped clicking. One of his hands slowly raised to cover his eyes. "This is not happening," he said quietly. "This is a stress-induced hallucination. I'm actually unconscious in my office. Someone drugged my calf. That's the only explanation." "Afraid not, sir," Tog said. "This is very real and very much happening." Before Krelnak could respond, two more humans walked into the habitat. Adults. They were eating what looked like Zentari flavor sticks and chatting casually, completely unconcerned. The woman spotted the little girl and sighed. "Emma, sweetie, we told you not to wander off." Emma, apparently that was the child's name, looked sheepish. "But, Mom, I found a big puppy." The male human took another bite of his flavor stick. "That's not a puppy, honey. That's a—" "What is that, exactly?" He looked at Krelnak with mild curiosity. The commander's translator circuits actually stuttered, trying to process an appropriate response. "That is a Vorthax from Krygeth 9. It's classified as a Class A lethal threat. It could kill everyone in this room in approximately 4.3 seconds. The woman, Emma's mother, raised an eyebrow. Looks friendly enough." "Friendly, it's the apex predator of one of the most dangerous planets in known space. Its species is famous for being impossible to domesticate. It once ate an entire survey team." The human male, who'd identified himself as Tom Reed while his wife Nina nodded along, just shrugged. "Yeah, but kids have that effect on animals. Emma's always doing this. Last week she made friends with our neighbor's Rottweiler. Thing was supposedly super aggressive, wouldn't let anyone near it. Emma walked right up and started petting it. 5 minutes later, it was rolling over for belly rubs. The week before that," Nina added, we were hiking in Yellowstone, and she wandered off. Found her 20 minutes later playing with a grizzly bear, not a cub, full adult. It was letting her climb on it. Krelnak's worldview was crumbling in real time. That's not how biology works. That's not how predator instincts work. That's not how anything works." Nina shrugged again. "Look, I don't know what to tell you. Kids are weird, especially human kids. We probably shouldn't have evolved this way, but here we are." The Vorthax chose that moment to sit down, very gently, letting Emma slide off its back. She immediately hugged its massive head, and it leaned into the embrace, purring like an oversized, horrifying cat. Tog lowered his weapon completely. There was no point anymore. Reality had officially left the building. "Commander," he said tiredly, "I think we might need to update our containment protocols." Krelnak stared at the scene before him with the kind of existential despair usually reserved for philosophers contemplating the heat death of the universe. His entire understanding of xenobiology, predator behavior, and general common sense had just been thrown out an airlock. "Update our protocols," he repeated flatly. "Yes, of course. We'll just add a section titled, 'What to Do When Human Children Weaponize Cuteness to Neutralize Apex Predators.'" Yeah, that'll go right between standard feeding procedures and how to explain to your insurance company that physics doesn't work anymore. Emma was now showing the Vorthax her drawing. She'd apparently had a tablet with her because human children in the 23rd century came equipped with endless entertainment. See, Mr. Chompers, I drawed you. That's you with the flower crown. The Vorthax tilted its massive head, examining the crude stick figure representation with what genuinely appeared to be interest. It made a soft chuffing sound that might have been approval. Tom Reed walked over, still munching on his flavor stick, and peered at the drawing. And that's really good, sweetie. Very creative use of the purple for his scales. He doesn't have scales, Krill whispered desperately. He has the armored chitinous plating designed to deflect plasma fire. Purple chitinous plating, Tom corrected cheerfully. Nina was examining the habitat with casual interest. This is a nice setup, very naturalistic. Must be expensive to maintain, though. The atmospheric processing alone for a dome this size has to be running you, 50,000 credits a month? Krelnak made a sound like a malfunctioning air filtration system. We're not discussing maintenance costs. We're discussing the fact is that your offspring somehow pacified a creature that's killed 17 trained handlers across 4 different facilities. 18, Tog muttered. There was that incident on Proxima Station last year. 18 trained professionals with full combat loadouts and decades of experience, and your 3-year-old just walked up and made friends with it. Nina looked mildly impressed. 18, wow, that's pretty dangerous. Good thing Emma found him first, then. The commander's antennae were vibrating so fast they were becoming a blur. Good thing? Good thing? Do you understand what almost happened here? Do you comprehend the level of disaster we narrowly avoided? Not really, Tom admitted. I mean, Emma's fine. The big guy's fine. Everyone seems happy. Where's the disaster? The disaster is that this never should have been possible. Vorthax don't bond with anything. They're solitary predators with no pack instincts and absolutely no capacity for... He was interrupted by Emma throwing her arms around the Vorthax's massive neck and planting a kiss on its snout. The creature's eyes went half closed in what could only be described as bliss. Its tail was definitely wagging now. I love you, Mr. Chompers, Emma announced. You're the bestest big puppy ever. Krill holstered his weapon with shaking hands. I'm done. I'm retiring. I'm going back to my homeworld and becoming a moisture farmer. This job has broken me. Krelnak took several deep breaths through his spiracles, trying to center himself. Okay, let's approach this rationally. We need to sedate the Vorthax and return it to containment. Carefully, very carefully. We'll use tranquilizer darts, low dosage, multiple injection points to ensure even distribution. Dart him? Emma's voice went up several octaves, and her face scrunched up in that universal expression that every parent in every species recognizes, the pre-tantrum face. No, you can't hurt Mr. Chompers. That's mean. We're not hurting him. We're just... You're being mean to him. Tears started forming. Her lower lip trembled. She grabbed onto the Vorthax protectively. He's my friend. You can't take him away. And then things got really weird. The Vorthax, sensing Emma's distress, moved. Not aggressively, but deliberately, it positioned itself between the small human child and the armed security team, lowering its head in a stance that every predator in the galaxy would recognize: protection mode. The galaxy's most notorious killing machine was protecting the 3-year-old human from the people trying to save her. Togg's hand went back to his rifle. Commander, we have a problem. You think? Krelnak's voice had gone high and reedy. It's guarding her. It thinks we're a threat to her. The Vorthax's purring had stopped. A low growl rumbled from its throat, and the temperature in the habitat seemed to drop 5 degrees. Its claws, those titanium-shredding, armor-piercing claws, extended slightly, digging into the artificial soil. Every security officer took an involuntary step back. This was the Vorthax they'd expected. This was the creature from the warnings and incident reports. This was the apex predator remembering what it was born to do. Except it wasn't threatening Emma. It was threatening everyone else on her behalf. Tom Reed sighed deeply, the sound of a parent who'd been through this exact scenario way too many times. Okay, everyone, just calm down. Emma, honey, Mr. Chompers needs to go back to his room now. No. Emma, Rebecca Reed, don't make me count to 3. Emma's face scrunched up more. But I want to stay with him. Nina walked forward, completely ignoring the 4-ton murder machine that was currently in protection mode, and knelt down next to her daughter. The Vortex tracked her movement, but didn't growl. Apparently it had decided the parents were acceptable. Sweetie, Mr. Chompers lives here. This is his home. He needs to eat dinner and get his rest, just like you do. But you know what? Maybe we can ask the nice commander if you can come visit him tomorrow. Would that be okay? Emma sniffled. Really, I can come back? Nina looked at Krelnak, and there was something in her eyes that the commander recognized. It was the look of a persistence predator who just found leverage. We can arrange that, right? Supervised visits? Very safe and controlled. Every instinct Krelnak possessed screamed at him to say no, to refuse absolutely, to ban this entire family from the station permanently and probably file restraining orders against them with 3 different star systems. But the Vortex was still in protection mode. Emma was still crying, and about 40 weapons were trained on a situation that could go catastrophically wrong in about half a second. Yes, he heard himself say. Yes, of course, supervised visits tomorrow. Absolutely. Emma's face transformed instantly, tears vanishing like they'd never existed. Yay, okay, Mr. Chompers, I have to go now, but I'll come back tomorrow, I promise. She hugged the Vortex one more time, and the creature's entire posture softened. The growl stopped. The claws retracted. It leaned down and very gently nuzzled the top of her head with its snout, careful to avoid the acid-producing glands. Then Emma skipped back to her parents, grabbed both their hands, and started chattering about what games she wanted to play with Mr. Chompers tomorrow. The Vortex watched her go. Its 6 eyes tracked her movement with an intensity that would normally precede a kill strike, but instead it just looked sad, almost forlorn. When the Reed family disappeared through the doorway, the creature turned back to Security Team Delta. They tensed, weapons ready. The Vortex simply walked past them, docile as a trained pet, heading back toward its containment cell. It moved slowly, deliberately, making no threatening gestures whatsoever. Its flower crown was still perched on its head. Tog and his team followed at a safe distance, still not quite believing what they were seeing. The apex predator that had torn through reinforced walls and destroyed security drones was voluntarily returning to captivity because a 3-year-old human had asked it to. Krelnak stood alone in the habitat, all 4 arms hanging limply at his sides, staring at nothing in particular. "I need a drink," he said to the empty air. "I need several drinks. I need enough drinks that my memory of the last hour becomes questionable." His comm chirped. It was station administration. "Commander, we're getting reports of the situation. Can you confirm the Vortex has been recaptured?" "Recaptured," Krelnak repeated numbly. "Sure, let's call it that. The incredibly dangerous apex predator voluntarily went back to its cell because a human toddler told it to, after she rode it like a pony and gave it a flower crown. That's what happened. That's my official report." There was a long pause. "Commander, have you been exposed to any mind-altering substances?" "I wish," he muttered and cut the comm. "Claude can make mistakes. Please double-check responses." 2 hours later, Krelnak sat in his office, staring at his desk display with the hollow-eyed expression of someone whose worldview had been thoroughly demolished and then stomped on for good measure. The Vortex was back in its reinforced containment cell. Triple-checked locks, extra security drones, a whole squad stationed outside just in case, none of which mattered apparently because the galaxy's most dangerous predator had gone back to its room because a tiny human child asked nicely. The video feed from the cell showed the Vortex curled up in the corner, still wearing its flower crown. It hadn't eaten its evening feeding. It just sat there, occasionally making that weird purring sound, staring at the door like it was waiting for someone. It was waiting for Emma. Krelnak's antennae drooped with exhaustion. "I need to understand this. I need it to make sense. Please, someone make this make sense." Tog stood at parade rest near the door, looking like he'd aged about 15 years in the past few hours. Sir, I've pulled up all available files on humans. The data is, it's concerning. More concerning than what we just witnessed? Different kind of concerning. TOG transferred files to the commander's display. Earth is classified as a Category 4 hazardous death world. I know that part. Right, but look at the specifics. Humans evolved as persistence predators. They literally chased their prey until it collapsed from exhaustion. Their endurance is off the charts. They can heal from injuries that would be fatal to most species. They dominated their entire planet's ecosystem so thoroughly that they had to invent rules to protect other species from themselves. Krelnak scrolled through the data, his mandibles clicking softly. Yes, very impressive, terrifying primates from a nightmare world. But that doesn't explain why the Vorthax— Let me finish, sir. Here's where it gets weird. About 30,000 years ago, humans encountered another apex predator on their planet, Canis lupus, wolves, pack hunters, extremely dangerous. You know what humans did? Hunted them to extinction. Domesticated them. They turned wolves into pets. They called them dogs and let them sleep in their homes and bred them into hundreds of different varieties, some of which are small enough to fit in a human's hand. They took apex predators and made them into companions. Krelnak felt a chill run down his carapace. Go on. It gets worse, sir. Humans have domesticated or attempted to domesticate over 400 different species on their planet, everything from megafauna to insects. There are records of humans keeping Ursus arctos, massive omnivorous predators, as pets. They've befriended dolphins, which are actually ruthless hunters. They've tamed horses, which evolved specifically to run away from predators, and convinced them to let humans ride on their backs. So the display showed images from Earth's history, humans with enormous predators, humans cuddling creatures that should have killed them, humans riding animals that should have thrown them off and trampled them. Their entire evolutionary strategy, as Tog continued, seems to be based on this bizarre compulsion to befriend everything. They look at dangerous creatures, and their first instinct isn't to run or fight. It's to pet them. They have a word for this. They call it cute. Cute, Krelnak repeated flatly. Yes, sir, if something triggers their cute response, they want to protect it and bond with it. And here's the really weird part. Human children have an amplified version of this response. Their survival instincts are basically non-existent. They approach everything with curiosity instead of caution. They don't understand danger the way adult humans do. Krelnak pulled up more files. Human children's behavior patterns, incident reports from various stations and planets where humans had settled. The pattern was undeniable. Human juveniles had attempted to pet Vraxian death beetles, Class B hazard, Corthian spine cats, Class A hazard, plasma slugs, Class C hazard, mostly due to toxicity, a malfunctioning security robot, not even a living creature, something called a jellyfish on Earth, apparently highly venomous. The list went on and on and on. They're insane, Krelnak whispered. Their entire species is fundamentally insane. Maybe, sir, but here's what I think happened today. The Vorthax is an apex predator, yes, incredibly dangerous, but it's also intelligent. It has complex social behaviors that we don't fully understand because they're solitary in the wild, and then it encounters Emma, a tiny defenseless human child, who walks right up to it without fear, who shows it affection, who treats it like it's not a monster, but a friend. The Vorthax's threat assessment system's probably short-circuited. Nothing in its evolutionary history prepared it for prey that actively wants to bond with it. Krelnak pulled up the security footage from the habitat, watched it again. Emma's fearless approach, the Vorthax's confused posture, that moment when it lowered its head and let her touch it. And humans have been doing this for thousands of years, Tog said quietly, turning predators into companions. It's in their nature. They're persistence predators in more ways than one. They don't just chase prey until it collapses. They pursue friendship with the same relentless determination. The commander felt something shift in his understanding. Earth wasn't just dangerous because humans were physically capable. It was dangerous because they'd spent millennia perfecting the art of making alliances with creatures that should eat them. They'd weaponized affection. Sir, there's one more thing. Tog pulled up diplomatic files. Earth has submitted formal requests to open enhanced diplomatic relations with the Galactic Council. They want cultural exchange programs, educational partnerships, scientific collaboration. Of course they do. If their toddlers can accidentally befriend a Vorthax in under 10 minutes, imagine what their trained diplomats can do. They could forge alliances with species we've considered too aggressive or too isolationist to approach. They could negotiate treaties with empires that have been hostile for centuries. Krelnok's antennae twitched. They could completely reshape galactic politics. Yes, sir, not through military force or technological superiority, through making friends with everyone. The commander looked back at the video feed of the Vorthax, still waiting patiently in its cell, still wearing its flower crown, a terrifying apex predator neutralized by a 3-year-old with pigtails and an excessive amount of enthusiasm. Humans are going to be a problem, Krelnok said finally, not because they're dangerous, because they're going to make us all like them. Tog nodded slowly. I suspect they already have, sir. You did promise Emma she could come back tomorrow. The commander groaned, all 4 hands covering his face. I did, didn't I? What was I thinking? You were thinking that saying no to a crying human child while a Vorthax was in protection mode seemed like a bad survival strategy. Fair point. They sat in silence for a moment, contemplating the strange new reality they'd stumbled into. Finally, Krelnak straightened up, his professional composure slowly returning. Right, okay, we'll allow supervised visits, controlled environment, full safety protocols, and we'll document everything. This could be groundbreaking research into cross-species bonding behaviors. Or we're just babysitting for the galaxy's most aggressively friendly species while they accidentally domesticate everything in the station. Also a possibility? Krelnak pulled up his schedule for tomorrow. What time did I tell them they could visit? You didn't specify, sir. Fantastic. They'll probably show up at dawn. He paused. Do we have any documentation on how to safely facilitate interspecies playdates with apex predators? No, sir. We're making this up as we go. Story of my life, Krelnak muttered. Story of my life. His display chirped with an incoming message. It was from Earth's diplomatic corps, thanking him for the wonderful cultural experience their citizens had enjoyed at the station and looking forward to future visits. There was an attached file, a drawing done by Emma. It showed stick figures of Krelnak, Tog, and the entire security team standing next to a purple Vorthax with a flower crown. Everyone was smiling. Despite everything, despite the stress and the existential crisis and the complete breakdown of everything he thought he knew about xenobiology, Krelnak felt his mandibles twitch in what might have been a smile. Humans, he said, shaking his head. They're going to conquer the galaxy with friendship, and nobody's going to be able to stop them. Tog pulled up more files on human behavior, already planning tomorrow's security protocols. Should be interesting, sir. That's one word for it. Part 6, the punchline. The next morning arrived with all the inevitability of a black hole's event horizon. Krelnak had gotten approximately 47 minutes of sleep, most of it filled with nightmares about explaining to the Galactic Council why he'd turned a maximum security zoological facility into a petting zoo. The Reed family showed up at Odu 800 hours sharp because apparently humans believed in punctuality when it involved their children's bizarre friendship rituals. Emma was wearing a different dress today, this one covered in images of Earth animals. She was also carrying a bag that looked suspiciously full. Good morning, Commander, Tom said cheerfully, holding 2 cups of station caf. Brought you coffee. You look like you need it. I need something significantly stronger than coffee, but thank you. Krelnak accepted the cup with one of his free hands, the other 3 currently occupied with data pads, incident reports, and his rapidly fading will to live. Nina smiled pleasantly. We really appreciate you letting Emma visit. She hasn't stopped talking about Mr. Chomper since yesterday. Drew about 15 more pictures. Made him a present. A present, Krelnak repeated weakly, for the Vorthax. Yep, Emma held up her bag proudly. I brought him lots of pictures, and I made him a friendship bracelet. Well, it's really big, so it's more like a friendship collar, but still. Tog appeared from around the corner, looking like he'd also had minimal sleep. His scales had a slightly gray tinge. Security protocols are in place, sir. We've set up observation posts, have medical teams on standby, and I've briefed everyone that if anything goes wrong, they should prioritize not shooting the human child. That's a low bar for success, but I'll take it. They made their way to the habitat dome, Emma skipping ahead with the boundless energy that only small children and quantum reactors possessed. The security team followed at a discreet distance, weapons holstered but hands hovering nearby. The Vorthax was already waiting at the habitat entrance. It must have heard them coming or sensed Emma's presence somehow. Its flower crown was still on its head, looking slightly wilted but somehow more endearing for it. The moment Emma saw it, her face lit up like a small sun. "Mr. Chompers," she ran forward despite her parents' half-hearted "Emma, don't run in the station" warnings, and the Vorthax lowered its massive head to her level. The purring started immediately, a sound that Krelnak was rapidly becoming familiar with, despite his brain insisting it shouldn't exist. Emma threw her arms around its snout. "I missed you. Did you miss me? I brought you presents." The Vorthax made a soft chuffing sound that definitely indicated affirmation. Its tail was wagging again, this time with enough force to create a small breeze. Krelnak watched this exchange with the resigned acceptance of someone who'd already surrendered to the absurdity of the universe. "So this is just happening now. This is our life." "Apparently so, sir," Tog muttered. Emma pulled out her drawings one by one, showing them to the Vorthax with detailed explanations. "This one is you playing fetch. Do you know how to play fetch? And this one is you at my birthday party. It's not until next month, but you should totally come. And this one is you meeting my cat, Mr. Whiskers. He's going to love you." The Vorthax examined each drawing with what appeared to be genuine interest, making small sounds of appreciation. This was an apex predator that had killed 18 trained handlers. It was now receiving art critiques from a 3-year-old and seemed delighted about it. Other creatures in the facility were starting to notice the commotion. A Thraxian spike beast in an adjacent habitat had pressed itself against the transparent barrier, watching Emma with intense focus. A Kelvorian shadowcat was attempting to get her attention with a series of chirps. "Commander?" One of the junior scientists, a Palaxian named Vex, approached nervously. "We're seeing unusual behavior patterns in the other predator specimens. They're all trying to look at the human child." Krelnak felt a headache forming behind his left eye cluster. Define unusual. Well, the shadow cat hasn't moved in 3 weeks, completely catatonic. Now it's active and trying to interact. The spike beast is normally hyper-aggressive. Right now it's doing this thing with its head that our behavioral experts think might be an attempt to look cute. An attempt to look cute. Yes, sir. A Class B hazard predator is trying to get a human toddler's attention by looking adorable. Through the habitat barriers, Krelnak could indeed see various deadly creatures adopting postures that could only be described as, "Please notice me." The spike beast had its head tilted at an angle that seemed physiologically uncomfortable. The shadow cat was doing something with its eyes that approximated the expression human domestic cats made in viral videos. Emma noticed, "Ooh, Mommy, look at all the other animals. Can I pet them too?" "Absolutely not," Krelnak said quickly. "The Vorthax is a special case, a very special, very unprecedented case that I'm still processing. The others stay in their habitats." Emma pouted but was distracted when the Vorthax gently nudged her with its snout, refocusing her attention. She giggled and went back to her bag of presents. "Okay, now for the bestest present." She pulled out what appeared to be a braided loop of colorful synthetic fibers. "It's a friendship bracelet. I made it myself. Well, Mommy helped with the hard parts, but I did most of it." She held it up. It was approximately the size of a hula hoop, which made sense given the Vorthax's neck circumference. The colors were bright pink, purple and glittery gold. The galaxy's most feared predator was about to receive handmade jewelry from a toddler. Emma approached carefully, well, as carefully as a 3-year-old could, and stretched up on her tiptoes. The Vorthax, seeming to understand what was needed, lowered its head even further. She slipped the friendship bracelet over its head and around its neck. There. Now everyone will know we're best friends. The Vorthax sat up, the bracelet hanging around its neck, next to its collection of natural armor plates and sensory organs. It looked absolutely ridiculous. It looked like a birthday party decoration had collided with a nightmare. And the Vorthax looked proud. Its posture straightened. Its purring intensified. It turned its head side to side, as if showing off its new accessory to the security team. Tog made a sound that might have been a suppressed laugh or a sob. It was hard to tell. Sir, I'm starting to think we should just lean into this. The galaxy's going to find out eventually. Find out what exactly? That we're running a daycare for apex predators? That humans have somehow found a way to make friends with anything that has a pulse. Sir, Earth's diplomatic corps has been trying to establish formal relations with the Council. What if we documented this, showed them that humans have a unique ability for cross-species bonding? Krelnak's antennae perked up slightly. You're suggesting we turn a catastrophic security failure into a diplomatic opportunity? I'm suggesting we acknowledge reality, sir. Emma did in 10 minutes what our behavioral specialists couldn't do in 3 years. If humans can do this, if they can actually form genuine bonds with species we considered too dangerous or too aggressive to work with, that changes everything. The commander watched Emma teaching the Vorthax to play fetch using a reinforced cargo container. The creature was gently picking up the container in its jaws, careful not to crush it, and bringing it back to her. Its tail was wagging so hard it was creating small divots in the artificial soil. They're going to change the galaxy, Krelnak said quietly. Not with weapons or technology, with friendship. With this insane, reckless, completely illogical determination to befriend everything they encounter. Probably, sir. And there's nothing we can do to stop it. Nope. A maintenance drone floated by, carrying a new sign. It read, "Human children permitted for animal enrichment purposes. Supervised visits only by appointment. Please check your sanity at the door." The last part hadn't been approved, but Krelnak decided to let it slide. His comm chirped. It was the Galactic Council's diplomatic liaison. Commander Krelnak, we're reviewing Earth's request for enhanced diplomatic status. We understand you recently had an incident involving human civilians. We'd like your assessment of human behavioral patterns. Krelnak looked at Emma, who was now attempting to teach the Vorthax basic commands using treats she'd brought from home. The apex predator was sitting on command, actually sitting like a trained pet. My assessment, he said slowly, is that if humans decide they want to be friends with you, resistance is futile. They will pursue friendship with the same relentless determination their ancestors used to hunt prey across continents, and somehow, against all logic and evolutionary sense, it works. There was a pause. That's an unusual diplomatic assessment, Commander. You'll understand when you meet them, sir. Just a word of advice. If they bring their children to the negotiations, you've already lost. You just don't know it yet. He ended the comm and turned to Tog. Get me a full report on today's interactions, behavioral notes, physiological responses, everything, and schedule Emma for regular visits, twice a week. We're going to need baseline data for the paper we're going to publish. Paper, sir? Cross-species bonding facilitated by human juveniles. How a 3-year-old revolutionized xenobiology. It'll either win awards or get us institutionalized, possibly both. Emma had successfully gotten the Vorthax to lie down. She was now using its side as a pillow, reading it a picture book about Earth dinosaurs. The creature listened attentively, occasionally making soft sounds when she pointed at pictures. Nina and Tom watched with the calm acceptance of parents who'd given up trying to understand their daughter's supernatural ability to befriend everything. You know, Tom said conversationally, Earth's planning to send cultural ambassadors to several worlds next year. Student exchange programs, that sort of thing. Krelnak felt his antennae droop. Let me guess, they're including children in these programs. Educational value, cross-cultural understanding, building bridges between species. Tom smiled. Emma's already asked if she can go. Of course she has. The commander took a long drink of his caf, wishing again that it was something stronger. The galaxy is doomed. Not from war or plague or cosmic catastrophe, from weaponized cuteness and aggressively friendly primates. Could be worse, Tog offered. How? How could it possibly be worse? They could have brought their domesticated wolves. Apparently humans call them dogs, and they're even more enthusiastic about making friends than human children. Krelnik's 4 hands covered his face. Please tell me you're joking. Wish I was, sir. There's a note in their diplomatic files. Earth wants to introduce therapy dogs to stressed galactic personnel. In the habitat, Emma had convinced the Vorthax to roll over. The apex predator of Krygeth 9 was now on its back, all 6 legs in the air, while a 3-year-old human scratched its armored belly. The purring was audible from 30 meters away. Various deadly creatures in adjacent habitats watched with what could only be described as jealousy. I'm putting in for a transfer, one of the security officers muttered. Denied, Krelnak said automatically. If I have to witness this, you all do too. Emma looked up and waved at him. Mr. Commander, do you want a pet, Mr. Chompers? He's really soft once you get past the scary parts. The Vorthax looked at Krelnak with what might have been hope in its 6 eyes, its flower crown slightly askew, its friendship bracelet glittering in the artificial sunlight. The commander sighed deeply. Why not? Reality stopped making sense yesterday. Might as well commit fully to the madness. He walked into the habitat, all 4 arms raised in surrender to the inevitable chaos that humans brought with them wherever they went. Behind him, Tog was already drafting the incident report. Under threat assessment, he wrote, minimal. Under security risk, he wrote, negligible. Under long-term implications for galactic stability, he paused, then wrote, humans are going to befriend everyone, and we're all powerless to stop them. Recommend we just accept it and move on. Emma's laughter echoed through the dome as she introduced the nervous commander to her new best friend. The Vorthax purred, and somewhere in diplomatic offices across 3 star systems, human ambassadors smiled and prepared their friendship initiatives. The galaxy didn't stand a chance.